I'm gonna talk about two sections here. One is threat response, which is, I believe, the most important portion of SecureX. And if you have used a CTR in the past, right? So it used to be a free tool in standalone, but now it's integrated into SecureX, which is awesome, right? So I will talk about, so Eddie shared about all the other stuff, right? So about the dashboard, about the ribbon, from here I'll talk about threat response first, and then I'll go into orchestration. But with threat response, if you haven't used it before, really it's just to help you hunt, investigate, and respond to across multiple different technologies, whether it's Cisco or not, right? To deal with any sort of threat and to respond to it. So that's all it's about. But how do we use it practically in a day-to-day experience, right? So I want to walk you through a bit of a storyline just to show you like how people actually interact and how do they use this, right? So without and with SecureX Threat Response. So let's say a typical day, right? I walk into the office and all of a sudden the boss pings me and say, hey, what do we know about loader rat? My response would be like this, right? So, first of all, how did Chuck find out about loader rat? Like, I have no idea. But luckily, I have a really good friend, right? So, which is really smart, which is Google. So let's find it out. Like, Google must know. Hey, Google never disappoint me, right? So, and Talos happened to have a posting about loader rat. So let's check this out. And bam, see, a really nicely done article all about this threat.
I saw a picture of it.
Yeah, and it even explains what is a rat, because I thought it's just a mouse, but it's not. So it is a remote access Trojan. That's awesome. Learn something new, right? So and good article about the whole campaign, this history behind it, and all the infection chain, all the details about how do we find out about more about this threat, and how do we find whether it's has any impact on us, and about the malware itself, what does it look like once you pop it up, and conclusion and all that, and which product we can use to mitigate that. So lots of great details about this guy. So that's great. So all I do is basically copy paste and respond to Chuck, and I would appear very smart to him, right? So good. I now I feel like I can walk away like a hero. But is that done? Looks like no. There's another question. So have we seen this in our environment? That's hard. Like, how do we know, right? So that's the tough question. Like, whether a threat had ever had, whether we had any exposure to a certain threat. So how do we know? One thing we could definitely leverage is Talos, right? So after this great article, basically after pretty much every article, there's a really good reference at the bottom, which is called IOCs. This is an indicator of compromise. So basically that is all the indicators, like including URLs, as you can see, right? And also the file hash, SHA-256 value of them, and also some domains that could be, that's being leveraged by this particular threat. So where do we go from here? Like now I have a bunch of URLs, I have some file hash, I have domains. What do? I maybe log into the different products and see if I see like maybe the firewall, I can see whether there's any hit, or maybe if I have a endpoint security, I can look at and search for these SHA values. And if I have umbrella, maybe I could check on the domains, right? So there are things that I could do, but it would take a long time for me to piece all of these together, right? So how do we? So usually we see that it take a ton of time for us to work on these IOCs, right? So to go through different products, look for different dashboards, copy and paste those values in, and see if there's any hit and all that. So that takes before this was like, more than half an hour. So a lot of time, once you want to actually picture this in your mind, or even draw this on a picture, how those indicators actually correlate and how do they get access to your environment, that takes probably days, for some cases, right? For some very complex threats. So now this is where threat response really shines, is we can dramatically reduce the amount of time that you use to go through different portals and hound down any sightings of your IOCs. We could give you one dashboard where you could just, we picture all of those relationships for you, right? So in one view, you can query the intel, whether it's, globally, global wide, or, locally to your environment, right? And you can visualize all of these threats, and then you can remediate right on the spot without having to leave the same UI. So we have a ton of tool around that as well, right? So we can copy paste this into threat response, but what's better is, this is what we call, and Eddie mentioned this earlier, is what we call a SecureX plugin, right? So it's a browser plugin. You can use it on your Chrome, you can use it on your Firefox, right? So and this is kind of like your tool belt. So, and that travels with you, right? So it doesn't matter where you go. So if you go to a third-party website, right, or your SIM, right? So all you need to do is bring up this tool and then click on this button, which is to extract all the observables on this page. So this tool basically just grabs all of those observables that we saw and give you real-time result as well. So as you can see, this domain is definitely malicious, right? So and this is suspicious, and it give you all the details about these IOCs. And what else you can do right on the spot, if you don't want to get into any investigation, you just want to be on the safe side, you can click on this and bring up what we call a pivot menu, right? So this goes across the board as well, not just the plugin, but across the board on SecureX. Whatever observable that you see, you can always click on this down arrow and bring up this pivot menu, where you can take a lot of actions already, right? I'll dive into details, but as you can see, we could block this domain on Umbrella, because it's already blocked. That says it's unblock this domain, right? So, but you get the point, right? So lots of things we can do right at the spot while we're researching what it is. And basically, I can answer Chuck's question right away, right? So whether we have seen any, but how do I really let him know and assure him that whether we have any exposure to this threat, right? So this really, once you click on that investigate button, which was I clicked a little bit too soon, but that was right next to the observables, and which is this button, right? So you can dive right into investigation, in our threat response interface, and this is our top use case, right? So people don't bother key in those values, right? So basically all they need to do is use that tool, and then bam, right there you are. And what it's doing right now is it's analyzing all of those 27 different indicators, right? So what it's doing is basically piecing them together into a nice picture and show you what's their relationship. And also, as you can see here, we have zero target, which is great. That's an indicator that we do not have any exposure in our environment. And also, you can see how many threat, those are the threat that we just saw a while ago, and these had all been enriched and populated on this map for you. And what's omitted, right? So because snort.org is definitely a good, but we can still add it, right? So we can still add it to the picture if you want to, right? So those are things that you can tweak. And related threats, right? So all the related that we know that could be related to your research, and also indicators, right? So these are all the indicators that's related to this guy. The same article that we saw from Talos, right? And also, what's most important is the modules, because this is how I can really be sure whether I can answer Chuck's question, right? So whether, have we seen this in our environment? Because if we don't have full visibility into our environment, we don't know, right? So if we have enough technology that's protecting us, then we would have really good visibility, right? So let's see, over here, I don't really see any email security. So maybe we saw some email samples that could potentially have those files, right? So, but that's missing. So I don't really know whether there is any sightings of those IOCs. But, anyways, this shows how we tie all of those observables together, and you can move them around, and you can move multiple as well. So just do the shift, press the shift button and left click, and then you can select multiple and move them, right? So, and by doing that, you're making your view a little nicer, right? Basically, you can look into all the different details about these IOCs. Like once I press on one of the target, and of course this is set 0 target because this is a clean IOC that the target actually accessed, right? So it shows you all the details about all the sightings, right? So we saw this from Umbrella, and and when do we saw that? And we can extract all the details from this from right here. And also all the different threats, right? So we can look into details whether on my environment, do I have any sightings of it, right? If it's global, it can show me global wide how many sightings are there. And overall, you can see all the different sightings of all the threats that we cover here, right? So that is the quick overview of the interface itself. And as you can see, because right here, this example, we don't have any sighting, right? So what I'll do is basically, create a case for myself, right? So, again, down at the bottom, use the SecureX ribbon, right? So I can basically go to the case, and I can create a new case and assign it to myself and say, hey, I've done this investigation and there was no sighting at the time, right? But maybe 10 days later, there is sighting again. So how do I protect myself from, hey, 10 days ago, I really didn't see any sighting, right? So what you can do really, another good tool is that you could do a snapshot of any investigation that you're working on. So if I click this button, I can take a really quick snapshot of what I'm looking at. And when I come back, and I can share this snapshot as well to anybody in my organization or even outside of the organization. So once I take a snapshot, and next time I open this snapshot, I come exactly back to where I left, right? So all the icons will stay where they are, just like this. I'll show you this example. So this was a snapshot I took earlier, right? So I made it really neat, and so I can really see how's their relationship and all that, and easy, right? So. And looking at snapshots, you can always go to your list of snapshot and go back to any investigation that you've done in the past, right? So like this one is a little bit more complex, but it shows us great relationship and a great example of a real case, right? So like, let's say, for example, right here, we see 6 different targets, right? So that's unfortunate. That means we actually have exposure to this malware. And so down here, this map really draws out all the relationship and tell you the whole story of how that malware landed in our environment. So it could look a little convoluted, right? So lots of different arrows and small icons. One thing you can do is you can blow this up, right, to a full screen, and that give you better visibility into the icons. And another cool thing that we added to SecureX is this focus mode, right? So if I'm really want to look into this malicious file right now and see what it did and how did it land in my environment, right? All the details about it, I could just click on it, and that goes into this focus mode that shows me everything that's related to this, and highlight everything that's related to this file. So, and from here I can see it's got 4 different file names, right? So, and the most popular file name is coronaviruscure.pdf. So this is a PDF file, and I know it is malicious because it's already telling me that this file is malicious, right? So, and from here, like I said, in the pivot menu, I could go to M for endpoint to look at my file trajectory, right? And I can search for the SHA value, and I could do some quick orchestration. I'll cover this in a second, but as you can see, these are really quick process that, basically with one click of a button, you can activate a very complex flow that can help you automate this whole remediation and whatever you want, right? So, and you can create your own orchestration as well, which I'll cover. But as you can see, like maybe the most popular one would be this, right? So we could isolate a host. And we could take a forensic snapshot, right, with Orbital, and we could go into threat grid to browse this file and look at the detailed report about it, and maybe play with this malware if we want to, right, in the glove box. And of course, we could look at samples on Umbrella, all those good options. So back to this malware itself, it looks like this file came from email, right? So like I said, if we have more Cisco products that's integrated, well, not just Cisco, but third party as well, different products that's integrated into SecureX, the more visibility we gain, right? So we can actually, pull this whole picture together. So it looks like this file came from an email, actually two separate email IDs, right? And these emails are targeting this email address. And from there, we could see, hey, this file actually got passed and got onto this target machine. And this target machine is actually running this malware, right? So basically what it does is it actually utilize what we call iExplorer, which is our this on Windows, our Explorer, and also a PowerShell, to get this guy. So this guy is the actual malware that also have different file names, right? So this guy is actually carrying the malicious content and start trying to propagate itself, right? So then this is how we can piece all this story together very easily, right? And as I was showing you, and this is very responsive as well. So once you change the size of the window, it automatically resizes, right? So as you can see, and at any time, if you want to dive into details with any of these observables, right? So we can show you all the trending of it, right? When do we first see this, and how many sightings that we see, all the different judgments. You can see the whole thing, maybe how it went through, right? Maybe originally this wasn't saw as a malicious file, and maybe later on we did a retroactive action on it, right, to take care of it, right? And you can see all the verdicts, the sightings and indicators, right? So and all the different details about this malicious file. Same thing for URLs, right? So for any URL, you can dive into details there. So okay, so with that said, this is the main UI of this what we call threat response, right? But there is a ton of tool that you can utilize, right? So let's say going back to where we talked about this ribbon. So at any time you can launch into another product that you have integrated into SecureX, right? So if same thing from the ribbon and same thing from the graph here, you can get into any of these solutions to actually take action on things, right? And another thing is, like I said, you can create a casebook to track what you're doing, right? And another thing is you can associate your current investigation into a case. And I can easily create a case and say, this is a test case, right? So and I create it, and basically this case is created, and then there's no observables, and that I can associate this to this case, and I can also assign this case to someone else, and I can even associate a snapshot to the case, and so that I can add a snapshot to the incident, so that my team, if someone else take over this case, they can also take actions on this, right? So that is one use case. And another one is later on when you're doing your demo, there's a portion, because you're going to do it, I'm not going to show you. There's a portion that, we actually integrate into ticketing managing tools like, ServiceNow and whatnot, right? So from there, you could actually track these cases in actual case tracking in your existing case tracking systems. And SecureX can populate all of those details over there with suggestions. So it's very easy for you to manage your case and work with your team to collaborate. And another one is incidents, right? So incidents is what's directly associated to our investigation here, and that can be attached to that case. And another cool tool is I talked to you about, if I'm looking at a target endpoint here, and if I bring up the pivot menu, so there are a ton of things I could do, right? So let's say, for example, I want to back to the orchestration. I can, through one click, I can go and take a forensic snapshot and then isolate this host. So I don't have to go back to my M4 endpoint. I don't have to go to Orbital. Once I click this button, it automatically runs this workflow and tell me it's successful. And then I can go back to Orbital and, sorry, let me get that up again. So I can go into Orbital and see all the queries that's being done. And I can go to the result to see the actual report of that query, right? So I can see that Orbital report right from here. And at any time you can run your Orbital query from this tool as well, right? So everything is in this place, so you don't have to get into M4 endpoint to be able to do that. So that's why we're saying, hey, this is the go-to place, right? So one is that we aggregate and you can query all your global intel and your local contacts into one view, and we actually correlate them, so it's very easy for you to see, so you don't have to draw this yourself. And we can also visualize the impact of that threat as well, right? So how did it gain access to you, and how did it propagate itself, and what host it did affect, right? So who are the users that got in touch with this? And also we can take immediate actions, right? So we can isolate a host or block the destinations or files or whatever, and drill into more details at the same time. And we could also use a response, right? To quickly respond to that threat. And I forgot to mention one thing, right? So in all of these orchestrations that you saw, basically majority of them, like 20 of them, are out of the box. So like, say for example, the AMP host isolation with tier 2 approval, this came out of the box with SecureX, and take forensic snapshot and submit URL. And also you can add your own orchestration. I'll show you how do you do this in a second. But with those built-in 20 integrations, you can already achieve a lot, and you can customize this further if you need to achieve other tasks, right? Basically this is the module and quick summarization, right? So what we can see is we help you visualize the whole impact of the threat, right? So with this very simple map where you can customize. And we could, integrate into third-party interfaces and show those on this same interface as well, right? So like some verdicts from VirusTotal, right? And some other tools where you could have sightings, right? Maybe Gigamon or something, right? And also this integrate with existing Cisco interfaces, right? So this whole process can, what we saw in the past is that help you reduce 85% of time that that regular SOC team spent to respond and remediate to an attack, right? So basically this help you right at the spot, without leaving the tool or the ribbon. You can isolate hosts, you can block files, you can block destinations, all of those quick actions that you can do right away. Okay, so that is this module, and I'm right on time. And I do have a pop quiz for you, as what Eddie was saying. There's a pop quiz at each of the module, right? So let's see whether you were paying attention. So the question is how to select multiple nodes in the relations graph. So the relations graph was this graph that I was showing you, right? So how do you select multiple nodes? Okay, so